Hello and welcome. I'll just wait a few moments while everyone joins us. Beautiful. Well, welcome to day 2 of the Wellbeing Australia Education Summit for 2025. We've got an exciting session today where we're going to be hearing words of wisdom from Darren Cox around setting an organisational culture of wellbeing. Before we kick off and head into that, I just want to acknowledge the Aboriginal landowners. I'm coming to you from Gadigal land and really pay respects for the culture and the knowledge around building a community and learning from one another and really building from nature as to who we are and founding and grounding ourselves. So we're very grateful to the Aboriginal community for their wisdom, their knowledge and their sharing. And we want to pay respects to elders past, present and emerging. So my name's Catherine Taylor. I'm the chair and one of the board members for Wellbeing Australia, and I welcome you today to this discussion and part of our larger conference, which will continue through to tomorrow. So our focus at Wellbeing Australia is all around positive, proactive strategies from a national perspective and bringing us together to really learn from each other and with each other. So today's session is for you. So I really invite and welcome everybody to add to the chat any questions you've got, anything that you've sort of dialed in for and you're wanting to achieve from this, those things that are burning in the back of your brain around how do we really create that culture of what is really happening in the wellbeing space. And Darren and I are super welcome to answer those questions. So the Q&A function is there for you as well. That will make your questions anonymous. So if you feel more comfortable to be hidden and disguised in the background, that Q&A button is your best friend. If you want to share otherwise, just use the chat from that space. So without any further delays, Darren, I just want to welcome you to join us today.
Thank you, Catherine. Great to be with you. I was saying to Catherine before, I'd rather be bouncing up onto a stage and seeing everyone in person, but glad that lots of us can join from wherever we are around the country.
And you're still bringing the energy, which is what we're going to look for some somersaults back there. So that's what we want.
I do my best, which is probably helpful for some people that there's a bit of distance between us all, right?
That's right. Darren, you kindly presented at our executives function over the last month, and we did have a fantastic conversation around that organisation of wellbeing. And from that, we've asked you to be part of this session. So these conversations can ripple across more schools and organisations. Before we kick off, can you just give our attendees a little bit of a glimpse into who are you? What experience do you have?
Oh, what experience I have. The wrinkles and grey hair would suggest quite a bit, Catherine. So I'm the principal out here at Marsden Park Anglican College. I've been here now for 2 years and am the foundation principal. We've been setting up a brand new school. And so school has grown rapidly. In 2023, we had about 390 students, and that number now sits at 790, and next year will be over 1,000. And before this, prior to this, I was principal up in the Hunter Valley, where I did a similar thing for a while. I also worked for Sydney Catholic Schools for a few years, designing and creating their brand new learning environments. And so school leadership has been something I've been involved in. I've been a principal now for just over 10 years. And working with organisations and schools is what I love to do.
Brilliant. And you have been awarded Educator of the Year for 2025. This is the second time, I do believe.
Oh, so yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Something like that. Influential educator. And one of the things I'm actually most proud of is school this year was recognised as a 5-star employer of choice. And I think that's something that talks to the culture of our school, that our staff would want to recognise that, and nominate us for that. And then they were involved in that whole process. And I think that speaks to, when you've been around long enough, you're going to spread yourself out a bit. But as a school, to know that actually that's what we're recognised as is something that's really, really proud of.
Absolutely. And that's exactly why we've asked you to be here today, because you've done this setting a culture, working towards wellbeing, and you do have a strong belief. So I guess it's a really good starting point for us to just go, what do we actually mean when we're saying a culture of wellbeing? What is that?
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Because one of my favorite, we culture eats strategy for breakfast. So my question is, what's on the menu at your place?
Yeah.
Right? So what is the culture and what is that? And so for me, the reason why it's so important is because staff are our greatest resource. We put so much time and effort into our budgets and into efficiencies across an organisation. And, we'll talk to staff about don't use the colour photocopier because those colour photocopies cost you an extra 7 cents. But actually our greatest resource are our human resource. And so for me, it has to start with a philosophy of leadership. It has to start with a philosophy of what is the culture, what is the tone that we want here as a collective, as a group. And so I think that so many of us get into the busyness of managing the day-to-day, trying to get through, ensure that all the ducks are lined up, without actually feeling, what does it feel like to be an employee, to be a staff member at this organization? And so for me, that is something I'm really, really intentional about. And I link a lot of it back to, if you think about a sporting team, when they're drafting players or they're buying players, whatever it be, they want excellent players who are individually going to be the best of themselves and collectively are going to be the best of themselves. And then they try to equip those players and create the conditions for that team to be successful. And I think to myself, okay, here at school, people are people. They're not just an employee. It's not just about productivity, but actually that well-being and having that culture is, what does it feel like for me to turn up here every day? Am I valued? Am I appreciated? Am I seen? Am I noticed? Do I get to be the best of myself, or do I need to try and conform to be more like other people or how they want me to be? And so I think that that's sort of a little bit philosophically how we go about it. So we're actually intentional around recognizing and appreciating that we're all different. We are all unique. Actually, I don't want any more of me in the organization. There'd just be too much flubber in the air. Actually, we want every person to be the best of who they are. And so I recognize that and appreciate that, and so for us, that's philosophically where we come from. And then it's now about, okay, so now what do we put in place to allow that to actually now practically occur? So it doesn't go from just being a utopian idea, but actually what do we do to see that embedded?
Yeah. And that, like, as you say, the key is at the end of the day, and I love hearing you use words like we're human, right? We're human, and we do need to think about how people feel in that organization, because that's the authentic piece. So that culture piece, and what I'm hearing from you is very much the culture is the underpinning foundation. So if we don't have that right, we're not actually valuing anyone. And that staff piece, as you rightly say, is so key. So well-being is not I always joke, the well-being day with the hot yoga and the apples in the kitchen. That's not well-being. Well-being has to be that philosophy that overlays our values and our mission, is, I guess, what you're sort of suggesting.
Absolutely. Like, people need to be known and appreciated as a person. They're far more than so language at school, who you are is more important than what you do.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I look at someone who's wired very differently from me, I look at the analytical, deep thinker, contemplative, wired very differently to me. Actually, they bring value to our organization. And so our organization benefits if they're the best version of themselves, and we get to draw those strengths out so the rest of us get to think on that. One of my senior leaders is really high in learning. So when we're considering different research places, or we're considering different learning frameworks or whatever, that's not going to be me. I'm not going to sit with my head in a book for hours and research and read that one and cross-reference it, that one, whereas she loves that. And so actually we then all get to benefit from that. And so that's just one small example of actually how we make every single person feel valued, and not just an employee to deliver some productivity, to teach a lesson or to whatever. But actually, when you're a part of our organization, you're more than an employee. Like, we actually want to empower you. We actually want to have a vision for your life. And I think that when people turn up to work, they turn up wanting to make a significant difference. Not just stay in a box, do this, don't stick your head up. Actually, they want to make a broader they've got opinions, they've got ideas. Actually, let's hear from them. And if they've got different strengths and different ways, actually, let's create the conditions where they now get to feel, wow, my voice matters. Actually, they value me here. I love being here. You should come here because actually it feels good here, And so, as a staff, we've got a mantra: playful but professional, right? We can enjoy life, laugh, joyfulness, laughs all around, happiness, but actually we can also be excellent at who we are and what we do. And so that's what it feels like to come to work here every day.
That playfulness is so important, right? Because it
Right.
is what keeps us energized. So that comment that, well-being is knowing and appreciating everyone for who they are. Looking at schools that have got, and I know you've led these, 100 through to 500, 600 stuff. How do you make that real? What tool, what resource, what way do you do that?
Yeah, so the resource that we use to now put some practicality, some legs on this, we use Clifton Strengths. And so previously, my previous school, we had 170 staff. So I have done this with a large group before. Every single staff member would actually do the Clifton Strength Survey. From the survey, though, because it's different to just doing a survey, okay, we've done that, move on. Actually, now what do I do with that? Actually, now I understand that this person brings a strategic mindset. This person brings an analytical mindset. Like, actually, now how do I bring the best out of that? And so every staff member does the survey. Then every staff member has an individual coaching session with a strength coach, and then collective, and then we've done more. So that's where that's base level. Then we get the teams to have a coaching session with the strengths coach. So now I'm in a team and I go, okay, now I've had my individual session. Wow, actually understand myself better. That's why I react this way. That's why that frustrates me. That's why I get energized out of that. I know that about myself. These people all know that. Then we sit collectively, and now we get to work that out collectively. Once again, from a sporting background. You know, you've got players who like to receive the ball in this position, not this position. They like to stand wide over here or run it in there. And so therefore for me, actually, how do we make that happen, as opposed to, all right, you're co-teaching with each other, in you go, you're going to go and work on a grade together. And yet one person turns up, they want their gatherings to be really quite social, and the other person just wants to get through an agenda. And meanwhile, they both go home very frustrated working with this other person because they don't quite understand. So now when we do the collective strengths together as a team, that's why you do that. Now we've got a language to talk to one another, as opposed to beyond getting frustrated with one another in that way. So that's really important. That sets up the teams for success. And then we then take it beyond just their working to actually, how do you bring your well-being into all areas of life? How do you bring your strengths into actually your social and your personal life as well as your professional life? Because if you have that greater understanding, then you're getting to be the best of who you are in sort of personally and professionally. So that's a little bit of what we do. We start meetings. Yeah. We start meetings with, we'll pull out some strengths cards. We'll ask some strengths questions at the start just to promote conversation and have people reflecting on when they've had a chance to use their strengths. Our professional reflections, we're just going through them at the moment. And it starts with, which of your strengths did have you used well this last year? Which strengths would you like to use a bit more this year? And that way I know, actually, can I do anything to support you in that? Is there a structural reason, or is there a bureaucracy reason as to why you haven't been able to operate that? Or is that just a bit of you let it slide this year? So we make that a constant part of our language. Even first day back this term. How did you get to use your strengths in the holidays? My number one is woo, right? We go on holidays.
Shocking for anyone who knows strengths.
That's right. So we go out, and my kids are now grown-ups, but their entire life, even now they go, Dad, are we going to make friends tonight? Yeah, we're probably going to meet some new people and make some friends. Yeah. The guy at the bar, the waiter, the whoever, the people at the table next door, yeah, they're probably going to, that's the way I'm wired. Now, when I get to do that socially, just on the weekend, that energizes me. Yeah. My wife, on the other hand, okay, quiet, read a book, sit on her own with a book. Yeah. So we now need to make sure that we have time for both of them in our weekend together in order to actually bring out the best in each other in a weekend. Yeah. It's no different in class as well, in work as well.
So that leads to a really interesting question. What is the difference between the individual's responsibility and the organization's responsibility? When we're talking about living and breathing that culture of well-being, be it through strengths or others, what is the responsibility of the individual compared to that organizational?
So to be honest, I probably blur some lines there a little bit, I reckon, if I'm a bit honest, because once again, for me, who you are as a person is what's most important.
Yep.
And so if you're getting to be the best of yourself in this context and this context, that's deeply where it comes from. So then I can create the conditions that work for you. And if I can give you some, tools like awareness, like the strengths language, the feedback from staff, both at my previous school and then this school, is overwhelmingly, they've never had anything like this. The best PD I've ever had. For the first time, I understand why I struggle to get my admin done. Like, think about the person on your staff who every year in their staff appraisal or whatever you want to call it, we go, oh yeah, I just got to get better at managing time. They've probably said it 5 years in a row. Oh, I've just got to get better at my admin. They've been saying that for a decade. Well, okay, now if you understand their strengths, now what you can do is help them understand how to manage themselves and put actually some strategies in place, because I now know it's nothing wrong with them. It's just they're not wired that way. So now we can help you use your other strengths in order to get your stuff done.
Perfect.
Then if you bring that into the workplace, then when we do some language around this as a greater, in your greater well-being, people have a greater awareness of, that's why I like to do that on the weekend. Oh, that's why I get frustrated on the holidays when all my wife wants to do is clean the garage every holidays. I don't want to clean the garage every holidays. That's not my thing. But there would be people online here today. That's a happy place. Let's organize the cupboards. And for you, getting to do that is a beautiful thing. If you understand that, now what's happening is now I don't even have that tension at home, right? Now that's helping me understand my relationship at home and with my kids. And that's then getting to you to be the best version of yourself holistically. And I think that's the thing. They're not employees. They're a human being with a whole person and a whole life going on. And how can I equip them to be most successful?
So true. And it's really interesting because some of the sessions we had yesterday and have had in the past, it is about that holistic well-being. It's recognizing that that workplace is part of my well-being. And so I'm feeding from both sides.
Yeah.
So what about if I'm a leader or a staff member who's in an organization where I don't feel they have a culture of well-being? What should I be doing, thinking, what's the response to that?
Yeah, so that's a really good question, right? And we've all been there, right? So for example, ever since I was a young person, I was told to be quiet and be more compliant. Little boys should be seen and not heard. And then that flowed through into the classrooms, et cetera, and in some of my first workplaces. I'm always going to be the loudest one. It's the way I'm wired. I'm always going to have a smart aleck answer. My mind's racing at 1,000,000 miles an hour, right? And so I've been there and experienced that, right? So for me, it's now, okay, there's this tool out there, there's this resource out there called Clifton Strengths. Look it up for yourself. It's like, it's not very expensive to do the survey. Do it yourself, get a bit of an awareness on that, and you can claim it on your tax, right? Claim it on your tax, do your survey, and then reach out to people who can actually help you understand yourself better. Then you've actually then got a language to maybe talk to and appreciate others. And then you can start to appreciate others as well. So rather than getting frustrated by a colleague, we've now got a common language. Yeah, we've got a common language. There's not as much tension. It's now not about you're different to me. Oh, that's why. That's why. So as you start to understand yourself better, yeah, and then you start to understand others better, that's what's going to help in those places where you don't quite feel it. That would be my thing in there, as opposed to, oh, I'm beyond frustrated. Actually, what is it that's causing the frustration? It's causing the frustration because this person can't make a decision and I need a decision made. Well, why can't they make the decision? Actually, they're just trying to work out the best solution. It's not that they can't, they just don't. So that helps you understand each other a little bit better.
Absolutely. We were talking this morning, Maria was sharing about iceberg theory, and I think that's exactly what you're speaking about, is what's beneath it. So the frustration of me thinking, geez, I wish you'd make a decision, but the reality of what else is happening in their way of processing an approach. We've got a great question. We've got a very, very on-task person here who is guessing your strengths in the background, Mr. Cox. And one of the questions is, do you use StrengthsFinder as part of your recruitment process?
Oh, at times, yes. Yeah, so definitely for senior leadership, 100%. So I'm also, when I'm now meeting staff, I will use in my interview process, I don't just say, oh, tell me about a time that you taught this ... point, right? Actually, lots of my questions are more about how they are as a person. Hey, when you go out somewhere, do you find yourself talking to strangers in the line waiting at the baker's? Oh, no. Okay. Hey, when you've got a holiday coming up, how many months in advance do you plan, or you're taking it as it comes? Like, I'm actually now starting to ask them questions that would give me an indication as to where they're at and how they're feeling. But then definitely at executive level and leadership level, absolutely I do.
Yep, beautiful. And what about the role of middle leaders? I think there's a lot of questions out there and possibly confusion from various middle leaders about what their role is in this setting the tone, right? What do you think is the role of middle leaders in that culture set?
So the role of middle leaders for me is to continue to ensure that culture is playing out in all of those community groups, those groups that we belong to throughout the school. So that actually I have a philosophical vision as to what a workplace should feel like. That's going to go to my senior leaders. They buy into that. which then means my middle leaders, that needs to be the experience in this section of the school and that section of the school as well. So oftentimes middle leaders can feel as though they're the doers. I've got to do all the scope and sequences. I've got to do all of these things. I've got to do all these things, or they delegate tasks. Actually, no. Your job is to ensure that culture is what it feels like across the entire organization. So that my experience, if I'm in that department compared to that department, is philosophically going to feel very similar, because we understand it's a strengths-based approach. So for me, the middle leaders and equipping them as leaders, because whatever level you lead at, the leadership traits are still the same. Cast a vision, inspire people, get the best out of people, create the conditions. All of that's still the same. And then what you find is that often when people are feeling empowered that way, feeling valued, you find them starting to go, hey, I'll look after that part of the thing. Or, hey, I'll do this thing over here. Like, we keep talking about delegation. To be honest, if people feel empowered, most of the time they're volunteering. Because why? Because it's in their strength zone. Like, actually, I'd love to do that, because those spreadsheets or that filing system that we've been using on the drive has been driving me nuts. You mean I get to tidy that up for us all? Go for it.
Yeah.
Right? It doesn't just have to be, oh, that's that person's job because they're a head of department, they're a middle leader. Actually, there's others who are probably better at stuff than you. Be humble enough to recognize that and own it. Right? That's where humility comes in.
Yeah, you raise a great point there, though, because you're saying we've got consistency across the organisation about that culture set of what we're actually expecting and how we're living and breathing the school. But we can do it differently. Can you unpack that a little bit for me? So recognising the different strengths, right? Exactly as you say, I've got people over here who are deeper thinkers, and I've got here people who are more action-oriented. They're both going to be able to live the culture, but they'll do it differently. Can you unpack that for us?
Yeah, absolutely. So there is such a wide range of people. Like, we've got some people who sit there and we'll say, we're going to have this event. I think we're going to do this and this. You've got some people there who will sit there and actually have thought about what all the potential issues are going to be. They're really, really helpful. They're not negative. They're not black hats. Actually, what they've got is this ability to actually forward think and see concerns and whatever's going to be. So engage them earlier. So then when you come to the conversation, they can actually lead that conversation. Hey, you know that Darren's mentioned about this excursion. Hey, I've been thinking about this, this, and this. And actually now you get to use people to speak into things. So it's now not just about a job title, but it's about who's best equipped to actually speak into and lead and take some responsibility for different areas in your department or in your organization, if that makes sense.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you. So we've only got a couple of minutes left. Please pop in any questions anyone has burning in their brains. One of the questions that we get asked a lot. So from your perspective, what do you think are the greatest well-being challenges for educational organizations at the moment?
Boy, yeah, they're good questions.
Can of worms, that one, isn't it?
Yeah. So I think that parents are interacting with parents is tough. I think technology can be a challenge. I think the administrative burden can be a challenge. I think the fact that you're sort of on the whole time. Like, I've been teaching like a long time, right? There was once upon a time where you were uncontactable. Well, now teachers and parents can send you an email at any time of day or night. How we help staff switch off from that. I think there's some of the greatest concerns, because that's what weighs on you, because it's the emotional stuff that actually tends to affect your well-being, not the busy work, right? And whether it gets done today or tomorrow, you can generally work that out with your leader. Hey, look, I've just had X, Y, and Z on. Could I hand that in at 9 o'clock tomorrow? Busy work will tend to get done. It's the emotional energies or strains, I think, that actually start to affect people's well-being.
Yep.
Gosh, I feel like I'm not good enough. I feel like I can't keep, it's feel like, yeah? And I think that's what speaks into well-being. So therefore, how we can support one another, actually, I'm wired with a whole heap of energy. Let me take a little bit of a load for you, because I can do X, Y, and Z. That's going to support you. And at some other stage, they're going to use some of theirs to help me out. So I think then that when you've got that well-being stuff and we understand what the pressures are, then we can support one another with that. Like, for me, writing my school council report, which is once a month, is honestly, I procrastinate. You ask the staff, I'm in there And I'm like, just causing trouble. And they go, you got a report due, don't you? And I go, yeah, I do. Talking with parents, oh, that's a happy space for me. So that doesn't affect me too greatly. So when we be aware of what some of those stresses are, then we know who we've got in our teams. Then we're able to support one another and work it out collegially, as opposed to, oh, well, sucks to be you. Good luck with that.
Yeah. Yeah. Great. Got a great question here, and we do have enough time. So can you share your top strengths and how
Yeah.
that has helped you to shape your culture at school? Fabulous, by the way.
Yeah. So my top 5, number 1 is woo, which means I really just enjoy meeting people, connecting with people. Some people would say I'm a natural networker. I've never thought about, okay, I'm going to go and network. It's just how I do things. I stand and I connect with people, connections come up. So woo is number 1. Strategic is number 2. So actually, let's get a game plan. If we're going to win, let's have a plan. We can have plan A, B, and C, but let's give a plan so we all know what it is. My 3rd is communication, which means I get to talk to lots of people about what it is we're trying to achieve. Cast a vision. Keep talking about the values of the organisation. We keep putting that in front of everyone. So communicating regularly. It's leadership by 10,000 conversations. So communicating is number 3. Positivity is number 4. So I often joke at staff that I'm Captain Morale. You know, it's a self-proclaimed title. I haven't got a cape or anything yet, but it's actually, we're okay. We can keep this going. It keeps people sort of bubbling along. I know it's tough, but the better days are coming. We'll be all good. We can work through this bit of difficulty right now because I think that we've got this strategic thing, and I'll communicate that with them. And then number 5 is activator, which means let's not have committees to have a committee to think about something, to think about what we might do. Oh, no. We make it happen. We're agile. You think that, I take it to staff. You all think that, great. Okay, let's go. Let's lock and load, move it on. You don't need to then ponder it more and more. The right person's done some research. The analytical guys have considered what they think are the best. People who've got the strengths in wondering what will be the issue, they've spoken into it. We put it out collectively. Okay, now we're done. Let's move. So they're my top 5. That's how it sort of plays out in leading.
So I'm now going to challenge you, and I have had the pleasure of working with you for many years, and I know your strength very, very well. Yeah. So the question I have from you, you just said a brilliant line, leading by 10,000 conversations. Yeah, love that line.
Yep.
One of the biggest bugbears I hear from staff around wellbeing, not feeling heard, not feeling seen, not feeling validated, not feeling like they're part of the organisation, multiple levels, does go back to that conversation. So say I'm one of those leaders who doesn't have that gift of communication to the level that you do. That's a more reserved person, that's a different, I'm still good and valued, and I still really respect wellbeing, but how do I then engage that concept of the 10,000 conversations and the value of?
Yeah, I just think that there's too many leaders who try to shortcut past actually, you'll learn to check in with someone. Actually, how does that relator feel when they just want to sit and think about it? You've still just got to make the time to communicate with them in whatever way, shape, or form. For me, a lot of that is upfront. But for someone else, it might be you just sit with your faculty and just sit and listen. Hey, I'm going to be having a cup of tea here at morning tea. For those of you who want, let's talk that through. For the person who you know is going to struggle with change management, actually, how do they want to be heard? And so once again, as the leader, like I take a lot of responsibility, and middle leaders need to as well, is that we need to be the ones who are putting ourselves out there for others. So how do others like to receive and give information and communicate is really important, not just the way that it works best for you. And so if a staff member hasn't handed something in, don't just go and get them in trouble. Actually, find out what's going on for that person. Just take that extra one step and say, hey, is everything going okay? Because I noticed who is it. Find out what's going on from them. You don't know what may have happened personally for them. Actually invest in them as people. Don't be so keen to get to the outcome. And that's an activator. But when it comes to the people go slowly, but the processes we can move along, if that sort of makes sense. So as my middle leaders, I talk to them regularly, even today, with a couple of them. You got to just talk about this thing. This one is about this. Don't talk to them about the next 3 things as well, because they're not going to get all 3 of them in the one. Make that one conversation about that one piece. You can go and talk to them about that other piece you were mentioning. Do that next week. That, as opposed to just bundling it all in one one conversation is. That's what I mean when I say 10,000 conversations. Just don't be in that hurry to solve it all in a 30-minute meeting. You might need to have 3 30-minute meetings.
And I think that with that, as you share, is it's not being afraid, it's not being fearful of it, because quite often when we talk about well-being, we see when people are struggling, we see when people are in a not great space. But sometimes as leaders, we're like, "Oh, hang on a minute, I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a counselor. I don't want to get too deep." It's the classic "Are you okay?" day question, and then people going, "But what if? What if the answer is out of my remit or realm?" And I think that sort of feeds into what you're just sharing there.
Yeah, and if that happens, and that happens, okay, now what we'll do is that we'll find the way that we can support you most effectively. It doesn't always have to be me. Like, it's not going to be me. Yeah, but we will find the best way to support you and care for you and give you success. As a leader, my job is to create the conditions, cast a vision, and then create the conditions for everyone to be successful. And if that means someone's anxious about something, okay, what can we do to create that condition to alleviate some of that anxiety? If someone's championing the bit and they want to get ahead, how can we create a condition where actually we keep their energy and their motivations high and do that, but whilst not expecting the same from every single person there? And hey, for the teachers online, it's no different to teaching, because in your class, you've got some kids who've already got that concept and they're ready to go. You've got some others who are struggling. Like, it's no, people are people.
Yeah, beautiful. I love that phrase, cast a vision for others to sort of be able to move from. And it is that visibility, right? It is about being able to make it accessible and being able to make it real and constant in terms of how it goes. So Darren, I could talk to you for hours. Thank you so much. Thank you to everyone who shared their comments and questions and feedback. So very, very grateful. As always, Darren, words of wisdom and much to walk away with and think through. So that concept and the practicality of how you've talked it through has been absolutely gold. So thank you so much. We will share a couple of resources on after this for those who have actually attended and have shared their questions to be able to unpack it in more detail. There will also be a survey when everyone exits the session today. So please give us your feedback. We are here for you. We do have a couple more sessions tomorrow. So anyone who has not already registered or is wanting to sort of find out more, tomorrow morning we have Dr. Chan talking about signs for burnout and starting to prevent and preempt them. Fascinating data he's sharing around that. And in the afternoon at 4 o'clock, Maria and I will be going through a guided wellbeing audit, which is where we can plan forward and really understand what is and isn't working in your individual or your organisational level of wellbeing. So again, Darren, thank you so much for your time, your energy and your input. We're very grateful. And for everyone else, have a lovely afternoon.
Thanks, Catherine. Thank you, everyone. Have a great afternoon. Bye.
Thanks, Darren.